West of the Bharatas, see here the different manifestations of Adityas, Rudras, and all the demigods. Behold the many things which no one has ever seen or heard before. Text 7. Ihaikastang jagat kritsnang pasyadya satcharacharam mama dehe gudakesha yachanyadrashtum ichasi. Whatever you wish to see can be seen all at once in this body. This universal form can show you all that you now desire, as well as whatever you may desire in the future. Everything is here completely. Text 8. Nattu mang sakyase drashtum anenaiva svakshakshusha divyang dadhami te chakshu pashyame yogamaishwaryam. But you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore, I give you divine eyes by which you can behold my mystic opulence. Text 9. Sanjayo vacha evam uktva tato rajan mahayogeshvaro harihi darshayamasa parthaya paramang rupam aishwaryam. Sanjaya said, O king, speaking thus, the Supreme, the Lord of all mystic power, the personality of Godhead, displayed his universal form to Arjuna. Text 10 through 11. Aneka vaktranayamnam, aneka dibhuta darshanam, aneka divyabharanam, divyaneko dyatayudham, divyamalyam bharadharam, divyagandanulepanam, Sarvascharayam mayang devang anantam vishvato mukham. Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths and unlimited eyes. It was all wondrous. The form was decorated with divine, dazzling ornaments and arrayed in many garbs. He was garlanded gloriously, and there were many scents smeared over his body. All was magnificent, all expanding, unlimited. This was seen by Arjuna. Text 12. Dive surya sahasrasya bhaved yuga pad uttita yadi bhasadrishi sa syad bhasastasya mahatmanah. If hundreds of thousands of suns rose up at once into the sky, they might resemble the effulgence of the Supreme Person in that universal form. Text 13. Tatraikastam jagat kritsnang pravibhaktam anekadha apasya deva devasya sharire bhandavasthada. At that time, Arjuna could see in the universal form of the Lord the unlimited expansions of the universe situated in one place, although divided into many, many thousands. So this chapter, the universal form, many things are learned in this chapter. Here, Arjuna wants to actually know exactly and see with his own eyes how he enters this cosmic manifestation, as is stated in this third verse. O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you here before me in your actual position, this actual position is Krishna, two-handed form Krishna. I yet wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. So he wants to see the universal form of the Lord, which is not his actual form, because his actual form is eternal. This universal form is a temporary manifestation which exists only in the material universe. So it's not his actual form from that perspective. It's a form generally meant to attract those who are very materialistic, who are impressed by this type of form. And many famous people actually have tried to imitate. Particularly, I'm thinking of this one person, Jimi Hendrix. He put his face on the universal form. I saw his shirt, someone wearing that on book distribution. So I gave him the real universal form. So, but still, many people are attracted to this I know myself, I was, wow, this is great. Universal form, all this grand opulence. But after you realize the Bhagavad Gita more, then the sweetness of one's relationship with Krishna is superior to what this universal form has to offer. Generally, people are impressed by these power and this opulence from some mundane reason, actually, because, we're attracted to power because we want actually to have power. We want to have opulence and strength and all these things. We see ourselves in that. So this Jimi Hendrix thought he was the universal form, so he put his face on all these heads. But this is foolishness, actually. And the universal form is not actually Krishna's actual position, as stated in this verse. So let's read a little bit of the purport. The Lord said that because he entered into the material universe by his personal representation, the cosmic manifestation has been made possible and is going on. Now, as far as Arjuna is concerned, he is inspired by the statements of Krishna. But in order to convince others in the future who may think that Krishna is an ordinary person, he desires to see him actually in his universal form, to see how he is acting from within the universe, although he is apart from it. Arjuna asking the Lord's permission is also significant. Since the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is present within Arjuna himself. Therefore, he knows the desire of Arjuna, and he can understand that Arjuna has no special desire to see him in his universal form, for he is completely satisfied to see him in his personal form of Krishna. But he can understand also that Arjuna wants to see the universal form to convince others. He did not have any personal desire for confirmation. Krishna also understands that Arjuna wants to see the universal form to set a criterion. For in the future, there would be so many impostors who would pose themselves as incarnations of God. The people therefore should be careful. One who claims to be Krishna should be prepared to show his universal form, to confirm his claim to the people. This is nice. So, pure devotee, like Arjuna, is always thinking of the mission of the Lord, or the real purpose of the Lord, as will be actually illustrated in this chapter also, because we know what is the purpose of this form. Arjuna will ask, what is this purpose of this form? Why have you revealed this form? So in that purport, Prabhupada also elaborates the purpose of the universe, why it's created. So naturally, a devotee being in touch with the supreme will of Krishna is in tune with his purpose. So therefore, he wants to always give Krishna an opportunity to fulfill his will, his purpose in this world. So naturally, because in the future, many people will proclaim to be God, but this will be an impediment or an obstacle that people will have to overcome. But if we follow in the footsteps of Arjuna, we can challenge people. Okay, if you are God, then do something like to prove that you're God, It's like some people want to claim to be Krishna, and many blind people follow them, not in this country, but in India. And many people try to imitate Krishna's intimate pastimes or like this. But if someone had some intelligence, they would say, okay, hold on. Arjuna also challenged Krishna, and Krishna revealed his universal form. So let's see if this person can at least hold a mountain on his finger. So Maharaj has a comment.
Yeah. So read the 13th verse.
We can't hear it. 1 second.
Hare Krishna. So I'm going to read the purport for the 13th text, the translation and purport for the 13th, just the translation for the 13th text. At that time, Arjuna could see in the universal form of the Lord the unlimited expansions of the universe situated in one place, although divided into many, many thousands.
Report describes how there are many millions of universes. The universe is described as Brahmanda. They're of similar design. They're all round like eggs. And inside they each have half the inner portion like a coconut filled with water, and the top half is filled with sky, space, and stars, planets. And then there's a big earth, huge earth section that goes across around the middle of the upper section. And that's called the earthly planets. So there's 14 planetary systems, and there are thousands and thousands of planets in each one. And there are millions and millions of universes as they expand from Mahavishnu as he exhales. Mahavishnu is an expansion of Krishna, and he performs the service of arranging places for the living entities who have fallen from being pure devotees and who wish to try to enjoy the material world. So Lord Mahavishnu arranges for them by generating as many universes as one breathes out from the pores of one's whole body, breathing out. Each pore universe is coming out. So these universes then float on the causal ocean, and then the Lord enters into those universes individually as Garbhodaka Vishnu, lies down on the water portion, the Garbhodaka portion, and from him sprouts a lotus flower from his navel, on which Lord Brahma appears in every universe. But some of the universes are bigger than our universe. Some of them, the Brahma has such a big area to manage. He needs more than 4 heads. Our Lord Brahma has 4 heads. Other planets, Brahma may have 8 heads, some 16, 32, 64, 1,000, 10,000. Some of the universes are so expansive, he needs many thousands of heads. And that's a common of it. The Lord can accommodate that by arranging Brahmas. So we're proud of our progress in our computer technology, that we can make things big and small and put a lot of technology into small places. It is quite astounding what can be done. But just imagine what Brahma is able to do with thousands of heads. We have 1 head, and we have a hard time kind of keeping that one together. But Brahma's got thousands of heads, and he lives for 300 approximately and 11 trillion years by our calculation. A long time, great intelligence, and he's got this wonderful service of managing the universe. First of all, he's the designer, and then he goes and helps to manage also and keep creation going, make sure there's enough offspring. And then all the bodies of the living entities who are fallen from the spiritual world they're given these material bodies, 8,400,000 species, and those living entities can choose which types of body they'd like to try to live in and enjoy. And they go up and down. Sometimes they go up and they become demigods, and they enjoy heavenly delights. And sometimes they fall down again, and they become worms in the earth, and in the trees, and so many different types of bodies and lifetimes of enjoyment and suffering. Overall, Krishna, though, dismisses the material world as Dukkalayam Shashvata, a place of misery, temporary place of misery, repeated birth and death take place. He's encouraging everyone to give it up, to better come back to the spiritual world. They'll like it much more. So Krishna tries his best to convince all the souls in the material world to come back. He's so merciful. He appears in unlimited forms. Advaitam Achyutam Anadam Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Nava Yovanam. He comes in thousands and millions of different incarnations, different forms. And Krishna is the original form. His Nava Yovana, his youthhood, a boy of 16 or 20 years, that's his eternal form. He never ages beyond that. And that's a very beautiful form. And that form is always in the spiritual world. But out of causeless mercy for the fallen souls, he also comes in his original form from time to time into the different universes. And it just so happened that Lord Krishna made his appearance on this earth a little over 5,000 years ago in Vrindavan, India. And he displayed his pastimes for 125 years, a kind of teaser, so to speak, so that one would get a taste and want to go and live there and be with all Krishna's associates, enjoy like that. So I was saying earlier about the planets. Prabhupada said there's so many planets. Some of them are great and some of them are small. In our cosmology study, we found that some of the planets are small, like 10, like 1 yojana across, 8 miles across. So that's a very small one, and some are very gigantic. So what we're seeing in the sky may not be what we're being taught that it is in terms of distance. Because the distances we're being taught that we're seeing in the sky are hundreds and millions of light years away. And of course, there's no way of confirming any kind of statement like that. There's no way of proving it because no one's ever gone there. And in their history, we're sure that no one's gone because it would take 100 million light years to get there. And then once they got there, then they would have to figure out some way to communicate to us that they made it, okay, and that they're ready for sending out information about this wonderful quasar or this wonderful galaxy that they've reached. But that message would take another hundreds of millions of light years. I mean, that's light year is how long light travels, how long it takes light to travel 1 year. So that's 192,000 miles per minute or second. So that's what's being presented now as authenticated, scientific, absolutely. You cannot defeat it, must be accepted as it is. But the Vedas present a different view. So we are trying our best to understand as best we can with our limited intelligence. But Krishna can also empower the devotees to understand, just as he says, Dami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mama Piyantite. As they surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. So Srila Prabhupada wanted to explain how Vedic cosmology works and his superior system. He wanted so badly to do this, and he had a desire to do it through a magnificent temple of Vedic planetarium. And so he launched this idea, and now the devotees throughout the movement are trying their best to play their part in helping to build it so that the world can see the superior system of science given in the Vedic literatures. Thank you very much.
Dime. Thank you, Maharaj. I was just thinking, even if they were to give us that information about what would be the point of that information, it's like useless knowledge. It's not actually knowledge, because knowledge is real knowledge is supposed to help us in our relationship with Krishna. Everything else is just waste of time. So this information of the cosmic manifestation, because it's in relation to Krishna and his opulence, it should inspire within us some veneration, respect, because without respect, there's no question of love. So we cannot jump to the platform of love without respecting Krishna, his paraphernalia, his name, form, everything about Krishna. You should understand that this is the person who is the source of the whole cosmic manifestation, as Maharaj nicely elucidated for us how the universe is constructed and there's so many universes. So all this, it should inspire some caution in our devotion, that we are actually dealing with the greatest of all personalities, as Arjuna states, is the greatest of all personalities. So that should be something worth taking from this chapter, is that, wow, Krishna is not an ordinary person. So we can read the Bhagavad Gita with more faith and more respect. And if we take and glean from this chapter this mood of respect, which is absolutely necessary in the sadhana platform where we're at. So let's continue reading. Anyone has any questions so far about anything? Hare, you want to just tell me? Oh, no. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.
Hare Krishna. So it's a pretty simple question.
Can you put your...
Yes, it's a pretty simple question. I was just wondering, why is there a misconception that all of these incarnations are emanating from Vishnu rather than the eighth incarnation, Krishna?
Why is there a misconception?
Yeah, where does this misconception come from?
Well, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, whether you say it's stated that there's no contradiction, it just appears that way. Because either way, Krishna is Vishnu. So There's no contradiction. This is stated, I think, in the first or second chapter of the Adi Lila. Can't remember exactly. But the point is, if you call Krishna Vishnu or you say Vishnu is the source of Krishna, there's no contradiction because there's no difference between them. They're the same person, just different form is manifested. Of course, we understand that Krishna is the ultimate source of all incarnations. Ete cham shakala Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. So how do we know? Because we go to Vyasadeva, who's revealing in the Srimad Bhagavatam actually that it's in fact Krishna. So those who have this misconception, they're trying to understand the scriptures on their own. So generally, you run into some contradictions, then you can't solve them. But we accept Vyasadev's statements in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, but ultimately, there's nothing wrong with saying Vishnu is the source of Krishna because Krishna comes through Vishnu externally. So, but in another perspective, then we know actually that this is just his Leela. This is actually Krishna. And Bhagavad Gita solves this contradiction also, right? The Prabhupada makes that point later on in the Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna showed his four-handed form, Vishnu form, a Mahavishnu form, and then revert back to his two-handed form, proving that he is the source of that form. So, you had something?
In the purport to text number 3, we touched on the subject of people calling them incarnations of God. And some persons say that Lord Jesus Christ says that he's God. And then they may have some evidence from that for that. And we say this is the evidence that Krishna is God.
Okay, so what's the question?
I'm just wondering, my mind is a little disturbed. I keep talking to Christians and I don't know my own philosophy. So I don't know what to tell them. And I'm just wondering if it's worth getting into, like asking a question like, what is our refutation of them saying that Christ himself says he's God? And then do we have to tell them that where does he show his universal form, or where does he live Govardhan Hill? Or I guess I'm just wondering if it's worth spending my energy to understand their perspective, or if it's only important for me to understand what's in this purport.
Well, in general, for most Christians, they're not actually philosophical at all. So I wouldn't bother wasting your time having a philosophical discussion with them. So you can give them prasadam and say, I'm happy you're not an atheist. And that's it. Tell them to try to follow their scriptures. If they're interested in more details, then they can take the Bhagavad Gita if they're open-minded. But most of them won't even look at our books. So, or won't even entertain anything we have to say. So it's like, you're really wasting your, they're hearing you, or they're just waiting for you to shut up so they can tell you what they have to say, actually. So that's the majority of the Christians you'll run into. Very few people are actually philosophically inquiring into the absolute truth or want to know the science of God. Very, very rare. So it's like, why are you wasting your time on them? So.
Well, I also am waiting for them to shut up so I can tell them.
Yeah. So, what's the question?
Well, my question is, when I talk to them about it, I'm like,
Anyways, our
yeah.
policy is Prabhupada didn't emphasize us to preach to those who profess some kind of faith in God. So that's not our mission. We're not here to convert people, you know. So Prabhupada encouraged, okay, you want to be a Christian? Then be a real Christian. How many people are following anything they're saying or living? Even if Prabhupada would say, if you want to be a Buddhist, be a real Buddhist. If you want to be a Christian, be a real Buddhist. If you want to be a Muslim, be a real Muslim. But be serious about what you're doing. And you may say, oh, how's that going to help them if they're serious? But actually, this quality of seriousness will help you if you're actually serious to follow whatever your tradition or something, that will help you. Because the serious Christians and the serious Muslims, if they come to Krishna consciousness, they take it up. The rest of them are just playing around. They're not even serious about their own practice. So I wouldn't waste too much time or bend your head backwards for them. So that's enough questions for now. We'll move on. We have 10 minutes. So if you think that I am able to behold your cosmic form, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that universal self. So we see the mood of Arjuna. He's asking, as Prabhupada mentioned in the previous, that he's not just demanding Krishna, he's asking. He understands that it is not by the jiva's strength that we can see God or control God, as God to reveal his form. Even the universal form requires some qualification. And this principle applies not just to God, but even anything we want to see or understand, we need some training is required. So, but specifically for something beyond the power of the senses to behold, then the jiva has to submit to God to help him. So he's acknowledging that Krishna is way much more superior than we are. So we should learn from this. And he's not giving Krishna orders. We request, but we depend on Krishna and Krishna's time. Whenever he wants to fulfill, then we trust that. We're not dependent on our own strength in devotional service. We're ultimately dependent on Krishna. So the Blessed Lord said, my dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, behold now my opulence is hundreds of thousands of varied divine forms, multicolored like the sea. So I guess the sea is multicolored when the waves are crashing and stuff, and some varieties are there. Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in his universal form, which, although a transcendental form, is just manifested for the cosmic manifestation and is therefore subject to the temporary time of this material nature. So transcendental in this context means it's beyond the living entity's ability to see this form. It's not that it's a form in the spiritual world. It's transcendental. It's beyond our senses. So let's continue reading. O best of the Bharata, see here the different manifestations of Adityas, Rudras, and all the demigods. Behold the many things which no one has ever seen or heard before. So Baba makes a really nice point in this purport. I'll just read it. Even though Arjuna was a personal friend of Krishna and the most advanced of learned men, it was still not possible for him to know everything about Krishna. So that's also another nice lesson we have to learn, that despite how great we are in devotional service, whatever progress we may make, still Krishna is unlimited. He can reveal more and more of his opulences have no limit. Therefore, even if we exaggerate Krishna's qualities, that exaggerate to our best of our abilities, it still will not be enough. So, because Krishna is unlimitedly great. And that's inconceivable, because you can only conceive what you're capable of conceiving. Beyond that, Krishna has to reveal. So whatever you wish to see can be seen all at once in this body. This universal form can show you all that you have now desire, as well as whatever you may desire in the future. Everything is here completely. As Maharaj was saying, actually, I don't know if he was saying this, but even the most advanced scientists cannot see what is going on in other parts of the universe. But here Arjuna is being allowed to see everything that's going on in the universe. And that's amazing, to see everything in the universe. And that's possible by Krishna's grace. Of course, we can also see what's going on in the universe through reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We know that there's, as in the 13 verses, there's different planets with different types of oceans, and different planets made with so many different jewels. There's oceans of milk, oceans of ghee, oceans of sugarcane juice, oceans of liquor, yogurt, oceans of yogurt. So many varieties are there in the universe, and we can know just by hearing. So, and as we will be seen in these different verses, we also can experience a little bit by hearing, just like Sanjaya is actually, as we will see in the 9th verse, he's actually also experiencing this by the mercy of Vyasadeva. He's actually able to experience all these dazzling, wonderful manifestations of Krishna. And in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he's talking about how he can't, it's so amazing that he just can't forget this universal form. You know, he's relishing it. The more he thinks about it, the more he's relishing it. So just like when devotees begin to realize Krishna's greatness more and more, it's impossible to go back into the material world and try to enjoy in the same way and be a materialist. It's like, how can you forget Krishna? So if he's actually impacted you, you've had realizations in your devotional service, and you've appreciated Krishna, how can anything in this material world seem attractive when Krishna is unlimitedly more attractive? Yeah, you can see it, but at the end you say, well, it's just a little fragment of Krishna's opulence, like he mentioned in the previous chapter. Oh, this great universe. Yeah, but Krishna has unlimited universes, so who cares? So for devotee, these things become insignificant, actually, because we know, actually, beyond his opulence is, his supreme opulence is how he's ready to give himself to his devotees. So let's continue reading. Sanjaya said, O king, speaking thus, the supreme lord of all mystic power, the personality of God, displayed his universal form to Arjuna. Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes. It was all wondrous. The form was decorated with divine, dazzling ornaments and arrayed in many garbs. He was garlanded gloriously, and there were many scents smeared over his body. All was magnificent, all expanding, unlimited. And this was seen by Arjuna. So if hundreds of thousands, and here Sanjaya is going to give an analogy to try to grasp a little bit. If hundreds of thousands of suns rose up at once into the sky, they might resemble the effulgence of the Supreme Person in that universal form. So thousands of suns, this is inconceivable. We can't even conceive what one sun looks like right in front of us, but thousands of them. So essentially it's really bright. I mean, how else can you describe it? But it's unbearably bright. But obviously, of course, even if you said there was millions of suns, still you cannot compare to Krishna's effulgence. It's the source of anything bright in this world. Anything is ultimately coming from Krishna's brightness, his effulgence. Arjuna at that time, Arjuna could see the universal form of the Lord, the unlimited expansions of the universe situated in one place, although divided into many, many thousands. And this is the verse that we ended on. And despite everything being all over the place, divided in so many places, still Arjuna, by Krishna's will, was able to see everything. And Prabhupada writes that only Arjuna and Krishna on the battlefield was seeing. Of course, Sanjaya was not on the battlefield, so there's no contradiction between this statement. But he was able to see by the mercy of Vyasadeva, and he was explaining this all to Dhritarashtra, who was probably shaking in his boots. We can imagine. No, it's not described here, but we can imagine he was probably, shaking in his boots when he hears this description of the Kurus being eaten alive by the universal form. It is stated later in the chapter. Time I am. Krishna shows his time, his Kala Rupa, the universal form, his four-armed form, and ultimately that he is the source of all these. And the purpose and how we should align ourselves with the purpose of the universe, which is to actually facilitate us to serve Krishna. That's the real purpose. But it also allows us, there's scope for us to get punished also by the universe by going against the laws of nature. So, okay, we can end there now and take one last question if anything is there. You had something to?
I have a question about Sanjaya relishing this universal form, because you said that the devotee doesn't much care for it.
Yeah, he's not a very high level devotee. Of course, we relish in a different way also. It's not like that we don't relish this, but not above Krishna's other features, his sweet forms. It's not that we don't care for the universal form. Like some people say, universal form chapter, it's not so important. Just move on. But actually, these opulences, hearing of Krishna's opulence, is supposed to nurture also love, because such opulent person agrees to submit himself to the devotee and serve the devotee. This is the person who's driving Arjuna's chariot. Amazing. Just like the Brahmana. So in that sense, devotees relish. It enhances their attachment to Krishna's sweet form. Versus Sanjaya, perhaps not so much. It's not endearing him to Krishna's sweetness. So there's a difference between how those who are more attracted to Krishna's sweet form relish this chapter, and those who are just completely in awe, absorbed in this. Some people say, this is the real essence of Bhagavad Gita. They say like this. This is universal form, this chapter. But, okay, so we'll end there. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.